It's another edition of Riding Home here on Dog Post. Legge and Matt DeBary. If you don't check out the site, please do so. Dogpost.com, DAWGPOST.com. Matt, on Saturday, Georgia will scrimmage. It's a very big event, obviously. It has been since Kirby got there. I'm assuming that 93,000 people will be there again this year. They were not permitted to because of some construction that was done at Sanford Stadium this past year. But it will be a big event. In the grand scheme of things, there's not a quarterback thing to look at this year. This is going to be the first time in a while that we haven't had that. In 16, obviously, you had Jacob. 17, you had Jacob again, but this time with Jake Fromm. So there was some curiosity there. And then last year with Justin Fields, who has since left and had a spring game of his own at Ohio State. So not as much hype, if you will, around this one. I do think there'll be 93,000. But what are you expecting of this day on the field?
On the field, I'm expecting. I'm going to look at the receivers. Which receivers are going to stand out and make some plays? The past 2 years, I know my job has been tracking down the quarterbacks, and they've been throwing it all over the place. So it'll be interesting to see which receivers make plays throughout the scrimmage.
Yeah, they certainly threw it all over the place last year. I think I remember that. They threw it quite a bit. That I remember. Have I gone crazy here? G-Days are not the most exciting thing on earth for me. I've been covering G-Days since 2002, I think it is. So they're not always, the most exciting day of the year for me. But it is a good chance to take a look at what's going on with players who, may not be starters, like Brian Herrien or what's going to happen at receiver with Matt Landers. If Matt Landers has the type of day at G-Day that he's been having during practices, I think he's going to open up a lot of eyes, and people will say, well, yeah, man, is this kid that good of a player, or is he always this inconsistent, or what? So I think there is much to watch, and the defense, the two spots really to pay attention to me are the defensive line and the wide receivers. If the defensive line is playing as well as it has most of the year and in the first scrimmage, you'll be able to notice it. If Georgia starts running the ball a lot more than we've seen in the past, than we heard about at spring ball, then maybe there is something to this defensive line thing. I think it's a good question all around. Those are the two spots I'm looking at.
Yeah, I hate to be this way. I'm expecting a boring G-Day.
Yeah.
It just is. I mean, you always have the spring guys who come out and always have a good spring and show up in spring game, like Jackson Harris, who ends up having 6 or 7 catches.
Right.
The second and third stringers always have a big game. We'll see a lot of them. They're not going to do much. It's going to be very simple. Hopefully, it will be a big crowd. I know you're expecting a full crowd. We'll see if Easter weekend has anything to do with that, but
Easter weekend will definitely have something to do with that. I think that's we've talked about this a lot. My wife has plenty to say about that. This is the day before Easter, but I think in terms of recruiting, this is a smart move. Even though it's the day before Easter, I think it's a smart move in terms of recruiting because you get the weekend basically by yourself. I don't know. No one in the SEC has a day, and I don't think anyone else has their spring ball right now either, unless I'm going crazy.
Yeah, it'll be a good chance for to have the experience for Georgia fans to come out. But if anyone is halfway injured in this game, they're not going to do much. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of massive plays, superstar guys out there. Is DeAndre Swift healthy? He's probably not going to get a ton of carries.
Right.
Amir's not going to get a ton of carries. We'll see. I think the defensive guys are going to step up. The young guys will flash. The quarterbacks will make a mistake here and there, especially the younger guys. But I'm not expecting, a barn burner, I guess you'd say.
Well, it will be good to see Dwayne Mathis get out there and Dwan, I should say, Mathis get out there, and I think that he and Stetson Bennett are at least curiosities to me. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I really don't. At backup quarterback, you've also got Beck, who will be amongst the group of kids trying to be the starter after Jake Fromm leaves, and we don't know when Jake Fromm will leave, but he certainly could leave after this year. Um, but I am going to be curious to see because unlike the general public, I have actually seen these kids throw in practice, and Mathis is relatively inconsistent, but he has good upside for sure. Stetson Bennett has I think just forgotten about in general, but he has been talked about for some time behind the scenes as being a very good player for them, someone who could step in and play when Jake Fromm is gone or gets injured. So those two guys for sure, it will be interesting to see. But then also too guys like Akeem Ojala, excuse me, uh, I don't.
Aziz.
Why did I call him Akeem? Aziz Ojolari, and then also Nolan Smith, Jermaine Johnson, just guys we haven't seen. Kobe Dean. These will all be interesting players to keep track of on G Day for sure. The young guys are reason enough to go to the game.
It always is every year. That's one, and everyone wants to see
Well,
the.
every year they don't have 15 guys, and they do this time.
They've got a really big group, so there's a lot of freshmen to keep an eye on during the scrimmage. I hope the weather.
Tyreek Stevenson too.
Tyreek Stevenson, Clay Webb will get a chance to go out there with the third string. The line should be fine. We'll see if Kirby's upset with the run game or not after this.
What were you about to say about the weather? Please don't. Please don't say there's something bad. I'm looking at the weather right now. It looks okay.
I'm hoping, and that's all. You never know, especially a week out. But if it was anything like this weekend, it should be pretty nice.
Well, it was enough. Yeah, I mean, it was enough on Sunday for them to change around the Masters completely, something we've never really seen before. It is supposed to be at 3 o'clock, 60 degrees in Athens with really 4% chance of participation. Precipitation and not participation. 100% chance of participation, but a little bit of wind.
Real quick, Dean, you like it Easter weekend? Because if they had the spring game last week, Tigers in contention and the Masters on a Saturday, the attendance is cut in half.
Well, I don't know if it would be cut in half, but it would have, which we saw with Mark when he did G-Day, they consistently had it the weekend of the Masters. And I do think that matters. It would matter to me. If I were just a spectator, I mean, if you have the ability to go to the Masters or a spring game of any, college team in America, the answer is you always go to Augusta because Augusta only happens once a year, and it is a competition for a championship that's one of the most prestigious in athletics. A spring game is a spring game. Mark, being as religious as he was not going to have it the week of Easter, or at least he would do his best not to. For me, there's two huge holidays in the Christian calendar: Christmas, Easter, and we can argue about which is really bigger if you want to on some other religious-based podcast. But Easter's a really big deal, and having it the day before Easter is not ideal. But you've got the calendar. You've got, to some degree, you have to deal with Georgia's calendar, University of Georgia's calendar, and when spring break is and stuff like that. It doesn't drive me crazy. I mean, there's always going to be a day before Easter, and you're going to do something typically the day before Easter. Augusta is always going to be not on Easter, so that's why we saw it so often. In the calendar where it was G-Day, but I think it's a good spot, believe it or not. I'm just saying my wife is not very happy about it. Of course, she's not happy about a lot of things these days, Matt. That's another conversation for another day.
Boy.
She's very angry, specifically at the NCAA for moving signing day to 4 days before Christmas. That makes her very not pleased.
Well, I can imagine that it's definitely our jobs into very hectic pre-Christmas week of figuring out where to go and all that. But going back to G Day real quick, I just want to think, who is on your mind? Who are three
I
guys
would love to see
that you really
Zamir.
want to see?
I would love to see Zamir White play. I don't think he's going to at all. So I will go with this. I'm gonna combine the two quarterbacks and make them one person. Okay, so I would like to watch Stetson and Mathis. I, I want to see Nolan Smith and Tyreek Stevenson. That four people, that set of three, I guess. Those are the folks that I want to see. And who do you
Gotcha.
have?
I'm going to go with Karras Jackson. I
Yeah.
like Karras, always have been. I think he might get a look at punt return, kick return too. So I think this could be a game where he has a big day and has a lot of catches, especially in that second half. Was thinking Nolan Smith. I'm gonna go N'Kobe Dean though. I want to get a freshman in there. He has torn it up this spring. You've heard it. I've heard it. It'll be exciting to watch him. And then on the offensive line, Jamari Sawyer. Let's see how far along he's come. We'll see how well he gels with this offensive line.
Well, I do. There is something to see at this G Day. I mean, I have plenty of questions, but they are sort of nitpicky questions. Um,
Yeah.
who will be the starting five on the offensive line? It did look like Jamari was going to be a guy that's in there. Now he seems to be floating around, and Cade Mays is at right guard. Um, I will say this, and we have not talked about this yet, but I wonder how much photography I will be doing on G Day and how much watching I will be doing on G Day. I might watch a lot more than I shoot, just
Last
because.
year you came up with me at the press box. I think at a halftime.
Yeah, it might be before that this time. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I think the big thing is that G Day is a little bit like a Liberty Bowl or a Belk Bowl in
Yeah.
that once it happens, it matters that moment, and then it's just kind of gone. Um, I think the Liberty Bowl in 2016 was important in a way that the Liberty Bowl in 2010 wasn't. So
Right.
I think that this G Day is going to be a lot like the 2010 Liberty Bowl in that it's not very critical to the grand scheme of things. I mean, I think you've got a lot. Kirby's been talking about how there's we've got a lot here right now, and this is the bulk of what we're going to be seeing in the fall. He's right. There's a couple of people who will be there, Pickens and Tremaine. Is it Tremaine Walker? Yeah, gosh, Trayvon Walker, Tremaine, Treve. It's getting
That's your
everybody's
boy
names.
too.
I think he's a very
Yeah.
good player. I want to see him on the defensive line. I want to see him play something other than linebacker, which is what he really dealt with at Upson Lee. So, and then one other guy I'll throw out there who you've been a proponent of for a while is John Fitzpatrick. Obviously I have people who are close in the program that get to see more practices than you and I do. John Fitzpatrick, it did impress at some stage. So will he be a guy that we're waiting to see how he progresses? I mean, you've only got 5 tight ends. There's only 3 scholarship tight ends who can play in G Day. Actually, 2. I don't know if Goody can go.
What about Wolf? Is Wolf
I don't think Wolf is there.
okay?
So
Yeah,
you're limited at tight end.
whole bunch of walk-ons. Bless you. There we go. There's the third time's the charm. We'll see. There's going to be a lot of walk-ons playing tight end for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking to see David Marshall. Is he back? Is he 100%?
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive line, it's not going to be, it's not going to be a full bunch.
There you go. I think he's going to be an important part of this team in the fall. I think people kind of forget how good he was at times, and it's tough to call him a veteran. It feels like he has been in the program for a few years now, but has been dinged up. We'll see. The defensive line's something that it's hard to tell with spring games. They're simple runs, simple everything.
Florida was very basic over the weekend.
But the fans will be there to see Nolan Smith and the quarterback and all those guys. But
I don't. Yeah. Do you remember the 2016 event that was G Day
with Ludacris?
Yeah, with Ludacris and Jacob
Yeah,
and everything.
that was huge. That was the big Kirby wanted everyone to be there. It was Eason and was that that was Eason and Fromm, right? Or was that the very first
No, that
Jacob
was
Eason and
Eason.
Lambert?
That was Eason Lambert and Bryce Ramsey.
Yeah.
Do you remember this the how excited people were when Jacob completed that one ball? I mean, it was they thought they had gotten to the promised land.
Yeah.
It was
When he came
wild.
in, the place went nuts, and Fromm had a really good day. His very first spring game, I remember
Yeah,
that. A lot of cheers for Fields last year, as expected, and
yeah.
he did a lot of good things in the spring
Well,
game
he
last.
he had a rough
Yeah.
G,
Um,
whatever it's called at Ohio State, man.
I didn't see it. I saw he made some crazy long pass. That's about all that
Yeah,
I saw the
he
spring game.
was. I think he was 4 of 19, maybe something like that. I mean, that's just not what you want.
No.
And I expected that to be much better than it was. I think he was four. Excuse me, 4 of 13 with a 90, like almost a 90-yard pass in there. So rough going for
What about
Justin
Eason?
up there.
Has Washington had
You know
theirs?
what? I don't know if UW's gone yet.
Well, it's got to be this week, right? I mean, they got to start
It
wrapping
doesn't.
this
It
stuff
doesn't
up.
have to be this week,
Huh?
but I will double check. The thing about it is that after recruiting picks up, but um, not much happens in terms of the program itself, football. When they're going next weekend, yeah, they're going the 27th. Not much actually happens after spring game except recruiting. Now that will pick up pretty significantly, and we're going to talk about that in our next podcast. But um, it's interesting. I am curious to know if there's really anyone getting in Jacob's way. Um,
And was at Wisconsin? I mean, Washington.
Washington, yeah,
I don't know the
I would
situation.
I would be skeptical that that someone is up there that would be getting in his way. But maybe I don't know.
But we should probably mention a get together. Do we have the
We don't know
details?
exactly where it will be, but Dog Post will have its usual spring get together with subscribers this Friday night in Athens. It'll be downtown. I'll put it on the message board, um, and we will let y'all know exactly where it will be this Friday, probably at 7 o'clock, and we'll take it from there.
Cool.
Any other? Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. Now we're about to talk recruiting in another podcast. Lots going on there. So if you're listening to this, and you're not super big into recruiting, give Dog Post a look because there's going to be a
Yeah.
ton of talent there. Lots of 5 stars, as it is every year. Maybe commitment, maybe we'll see. But big weekend for recruiting as always for G Day.
All right, Matt. Thanks for jumping on. We're gonna check out from here. Go to dogpost.com, dawgpost.com. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And if you're on iTunes and everywhere else, Instagram, SoundCloud, Dog Post, wherever else in the world. Thanks for listening to us, and we'll see you over on the site.